experiential. We know God by experiences that we have. We read the Word, it tells us who He is, but it becomes real when we experience Him. I understood so much more about my dad when I had sons. I understood so much more about why he did what he did, how he did what he did, why he wasn't as wrong as I thought he was. But until I stood in his shoes, I did not understand. Getting married, we were married how long before we had kids? But getting married didn't give me that understanding. How to be a father, how he wasn't, didn't give me that understanding. Just getting married didn't do it. While my wife was pregnant with our first son, just carrying around, did not give me that understanding. Even the day we brought him home from the hospital on that first day, didn't give me that understanding. Because as I had to walk in the shoes of the Father, I understood where He was. It's as we walk as believers, as we walk as believers, as we serve, as we worship, as we live, as we purpose, as believers, that's where we get to experience who God is. And it's the Holy Ghost on the inside that gives us the understanding of who He is. I'll tell you this, I learned a whole lot more about God's love when I became a parent. I understood what it's like when I disappoint Him with my actions, with my attitude, with my behaviors. I understood what it's like when I stand and tell God, no. He lets me get away with it for so long. I can give him 38 years, and I was telling him I was not going back to jail for Illinois. I'm sure he just forgive me every time. Every time. He knew when he was going to do it. All I hear, funny. You're funny. Okay, you're going. Joke about me. You're not a terrorist. Okay, God, you're right. You're right. But I have so much more in the spirit. Now we need to walk with Him. And now we can reserve. Well, actually, when I act a certain way, when He goes through, when I do things my way, when He goes, when He goes through, when I'm that child. You see, now, there's the Holy Ghost through that. It's only from reading the Word, learning about who God is, not how God is. Where it says, my sheep hear my voice, they come running to me. And it's the voice of, it's not just the tone of the voice, but the way the voice speaks. The things that the voice speaks. Because you can hear a voice that sounds like somebody you know, but the content of what they're saying will let you know if that's that person or not. See, voice authentication. The content will authenticate what it is. That we may comprehend, that we may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and depth and length and height. That's 4 dimensions. See, God's not one-sided. So you can be back. So that it goes with you, and with me, with God, with me. God has all of this. He has all of this. What it takes a Holy Ghost comprehension to know there's all sides and facets to God. So you can read the Word, but without the Holy Ghost. Without the Holy Ghost, you you'll miss. You might get late. We won't know height, depth, and breadth. We might get breadth, but we won't know the other three. We won't know the fullness. The fullness. That's why all those dimensions are there, all those descriptive dimensions are there, because that says the fullness of God. We'll comprehend it. We'll comprehend it to the maximum of our capacity now. To the maximum of our capacity now. The Lord hears that we become seasoned in Christ. Lord, we try to grow. God expands that capacity. He expands that capacity because we're growing. Our depth, knowledge, and understanding of who He is, because we're growing in that. And the more we grow in that, the more experiences we have with God, the more things He can allow us to go through and see different aspects inside of Him. Job. That's why Job went through what Job went through. Because Job had an understanding of who God was. Job wasn't a sinful man. Job was a righteous man. Job was a righteous man. But Job lost it all. He went through it all. And see, this is the trick the enemy played. Took everything. Left his wife. Left his wife. Left someone inside of him to work on his behalf. Ooh. Ooh. Somebody to tell him, oh, why don't you just curse God and die? Why don't you just curse God and die? But on the other side of it all, Job saw a side of God that he did not know. That he would not have known had he not gone through everything that he went through. And his friends saw a side of God that they did not understand. They got their crooked thinking fixed. Because Job went through what he went through. So Job went through for Job. But Job also went through for him. Because they needed it too. They needed it. And the word does not say, but they probably went back and tell them. You can't have an experience like that and not with testimony. Because where they were, we were all thinking that way. That's why they came from wherever they were. What the correct Job, what the fix Job. All of them. No. If that's right. Because God don't do that. God don't play. God don't like others. You're right, He don't. That's why He's really being fixed. But you don't have to go through it. You don't have to go through it because God will do it. God will do it. He needed a demonstration to help them do it. So I'm Sunday school. Misery. This nation, about to do this nation, about to do this nation, about to do this nation. Show them what's going to happen to them. But they refuse to receive. Surely that's not going to happen to us. They do not have that comprehension. They lack the comprehension. Nope. Old Testament, they did not have all those on your side. But they had prophets on it. Not just 8 prophets, they had several prophets. They had several warnings from several prophets over extended periods of time. But God gives us that opportunity. He gives us that opportunity. We as believers, He strengthens us with life by His Spirit in our inner man so that we may comprehend. So this is what's going on in our life. If we will submit and yield to God and do the things that if we will bow our knees unto the Lord and yield to Him, this is where He's trying to get us. This is where He's trying to get us. Jesus is the living water. We're branches in the living vine. That living water that He's pouring over us is expiring our growth. You take away the water out of the situation, and those plants are going to die. Even cactuses out in the desert need water. They don't get it the same way our grass may get it when they're drawing it from somewhere, from something. They're alive for some reason because they're getting it from somewhere. They're living water. We have to be those plants soak up that living water. Soak up that living water so that we have to you don't accidentally you don't passively comprehend. You have to pursue it. Verse 19. And to know the love of Christ which passes all knowledge, that he might be filled with all the fullness of God. See, we have to comprehend the breadth, the length, the depth, and the height, so that we can be filled with the fullness of God. We have to comprehend who he is so that we can be filled by his goodness. If we don't understand, we don't have that understanding of who he is. I go back to Job's friends. They did not have an understanding of who he was, so they couldn't be filled with his goodness. Because they hadn't experienced God. Once Job experienced God the way Job did, Job could pray for them, and now they can have a better comprehension, an experiential comprehension. Before, they could only say, I know of God. And they could only inaccurately portray and convey who God was. But because Job went through what Job went through, now, and they get to see and experience it, and Job had to pray for them before they could go, now they have some comprehension. Now they have some, now they can be filled with the fullness of God. Verse 20, now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly all that we can ask or think, according to the power that works within us. That power to see, to go, to see abundantly above whatever we can ask or think, that power is within us. That power is within us. To him who is able to do exceeding abundantly. Abundantly is good. Abundantly is a lot. Abundance, by definition, means a lot. Overflow. There's an abundance. There is more than what is necessary. There's more than what is needed. There's more than what is required. That is abundance. To him who is able to do exceeding abundantly. Exceeding abundantly. He's not done. Above. He's not abundantly above. He's not just abundantly. He's exceeding abundantly above what we can ask or think. We can think some crazy things. We can think some extravagant things. Whatever the craziest, most outrageous thing that we can think of, God can do exceeding abundantly above that. And that power is within us. God is able to do. See, there's a whole comprehension thing right here. You're not just abundant. Because abundant is good. Abundant is way more than just enough. Abundant is way more than just getting by. Abundant is maybe not squeaking by. Abundant is good. But we are exceeding abundant. Exceeding abundant.